This year, now that we're a couple years later, we're going back and really taking a measured approach at it, and actually basing off Beth's book, the book that I wrote, a couple other blog posts that some of the other people on that panel have done on how to actually measure social media and go beyond the a Facebook like is worth $1 and
Right.
some of the normal metrics that people make up out there.
Okay, cool, very nice. So I would like to hear you talk a little bit about what experience you bring to the table, I've been asking panel, but for this case, workshop, in regard to social media strategy, measurement, all the things you're going to be talking about. What expertise do you have?
Yeah, for sure. So I was at the American Cancer Society for about 10 years, and while I was there, I ran digital and interactive and started our social media program.
Okay.
So even as far back as 2008, 2009, when social media was really in its infancy, we were mostly working on building online communities. And then beyond that, I think the thing that I bring to it is what are the insights behind that? So you can measure all day, but if you're not getting actionable things out of it to give your superiors, it's not really a valuable metric. And that's all stuff that I did at the American Cancer Society, and even then, doing some consulting work right after that for some folks like Best Friends Animal Society, the Center for Disease Control, Emory University, places like that.
All right, so can you tell me a little more about, as a workshop, what can participants expect that might be a little bit different from the traditional panel format?
I think the traditional panel format, much like if you've ever been to Social Media Club Austin or any of those places, you have 5 people up in the front, they're all wanting to talk at the same time, depending on the panelists, and they're all sharing PowerPoints, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a boring classroom lecture, right? And so for us, I think this is great because we're going to interact and we're going to say, okay, now we have a 15-minute exercise where these 2 rows of people get up, go out in the hallway, here's a notepad and markers, and you're going to actually work on something, and then you're going to come back in and you're going to have 5 minutes to present it to the larger group. So a lot of interaction with each other, a lot of working with each other. Share pairs, have 2 people, turn to the person on your left, and talk to them about what you do and what do you measure. Tell each of you share one thing you measure. So it's going to be a lot more interactive.
So who do you think is going to benefit the most? Who do you think will really be served well by attending and learning from your workshop?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's executive directors, because I think leadership at nonprofits needs to understand the importance of measuring this, not just throwing up a page and trying to build community, but measuring that community. I think it's communications folks. I think it's fundraising folks. I think if you're a large enough nonprofit to actually have a dedicated social media person, we'd love to have that digital or social media person there. And I think community managers. I think the people at the larger nonprofits that are actually out there managing these platforms, they're the people posting to Facebook contests. They're people posting things on Twitter. They're people answering questions on LinkedIn. So I think, those community managers we'd love to have in there, because then they can go back and actually measure the work they're doing and present that to their key leadership folks.
Cool. All right. And so I'm wondering, I don't necessarily want you to give away what you're going to be talking about in your workshop, but what key skills can people expect to walk away with after they're done with the 2 hours with you guys?
I think they're going to come away with 2 to 3 frameworks of how they can actually measure their social media effectiveness. They're going to come away with some case studies from some leading brands. They're going to come away with some case studies from small nonprofits like Lights Camera Help, the nonprofit I helped create, on how we have 0 full-time staff, but we're still trying to measure and understand our data and pull key insights from it. And I think they're going to walk away with some worksheets and actual takeaways on how this works, how you can go home next week after you've recovered from your South by hangover, and actually put it to use in measuring your communities. It's going to be a little bit more advanced, so it's definitely kind of a 201, almost a 301 level. So it would depend on the person, right? If you're a grad student who's looking to get into this field, and you are doing stuff and building your online presence and working hard towards that, filling out your LinkedIn profile and connecting with people or whatever that might be, it might be good because you might be able to walk into a job opportunity and say, not only do I have the skills to run these pages, but also, you know what I bring to the table is measuring it and building out a dashboard and presenting this to key leadership. And I think that would get a lot of people a job, because you have people who've maybe been in the field for 5 years and are still not at that point. So I think, as long as you're somewhat versed and you're already on top of it, it'd be good. Now, if you're walking in with zero social media knowledge or digital change or digital marketing knowledge, then it's probably not useful for them.
Great. Well, is there anything else I didn't ask you that I should have about your workshop, or anything you want to share?
No, I think the big thing for us is we're really looking forward to it at South by. There's a lot of great panels that are going on. You can track a lot of them. The hashtag SXGood. So SXGOOD is kind of a hashtag to follow along on a lot of these like socially minded panels. There's a lot of stuff around social media for social good that's actually going on at South by, and you can kind of search that term and find a lot of the panels. And I would just want people reading this article to know that South by is very welcoming to nonprofits, and we want more people from that third sector to come. There's a lot of government folks, there's a lot of business folks, but we're still trying to get nonprofits to attend. And I would just say, as a unofficial spokesperson who attends South by, that South by does nonprofit scholarships. So once a year they really reach out and let you write a 500-word essay and actually award scholarships to a lot of nonprofits who otherwise couldn't afford to come to South by Southwest.
And one last thing, what advice in general do you have for people who have never attended South by before? It's their first time going. What would you tell them?
So take advantage of the networking opportunities. You're tired after a long day, but do go get that beer and that barbecue or that taco and network with people. Make sure you check out the Beacon Lounge. So the Beacon Lounge is kind of the nonprofit hangout at South by Southwest. So there's always really interesting people in there. It's brought to you by Beacon Fire Consulting. I think they do a great job of sponsoring that every year. And then, I would say is, it will overwhelm you, and that's okay. It's not your normal conference where you go all day long and then you go to the next day and sessions repeat, and if you miss it one day, you can go to the next. No, everything only just happens once. And there's literally, 1,000 options of things for you to do. So just make your schedule and stick with it as much as you feel like. And reach out. There's lots of good folks that you can search on Twitter for that hashtag and ask them questions. I'm at DaveIM, and I'm happy to answer people's questions on what's going on at South by.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you bet.
We'll
Thanks
see
a
you
lot.
at South by Southwest.
Yeah, looking forward to it.